At the very end of your career, you played with Andre Blake and Alejandro Bedoya, who are now captains themselves. What was your first impression of those two when they were young guys on the team?
I was just happy to see them come into the squad when, I was wearing the armband at the time. It just made my job a lot easier to have players of those caliber come in and help improve our squad tremendously. And they've just taken it to a new level.
Welcome back to the DOOP presented by Subaru. Today's episode is a very special one in honor of the club's 15th season. We have a fan favorite alumni in the building. Brian Carroll, welcome.
Sage, appreciate it. Thanks for everybody for having me and, welcoming back for the first time in a little bit. It's great to be here.
So when's the last time you were here on campus?
I think a couple years ago, and a lot has changed. Maybe the last alumni event.
Wow. So for fans who might need a little bit of a refresher, can you give a brief overview of your playing career at the Union and in Major League Soccer as a whole? Because you were in the league for a long time.
I was in the league for a long time. I've also been out of the league for a decent amount of time now. But, some of my best and favorite years were here in Philadelphia. I was here for 7 years and lucky enough to be named captain for a part of that. I'll always be able to call this place home. Even though it was the third team, I was here for the longest over the course of my 15-year career. So started at D.C., then got traded to Columbus, and then after a short stint in Columbus, got traded here and never left. It was kind of like, it was a little eye-opening, but, things work out for a reason, and I've loved every bit of the 7 years here.
And you retired a Philadelphia Union player.
I did, and I wouldn't have wanted to have it any other way. 2 of our 3 children were born here at Bryn Mawr Hospital, so this place means a lot to my wife Katie and I, and will always hold a very special place in our heart here. But having been back, a lot has changed, and I can't wait to see more of the ever-expanding campus here.
So what kind of changes have you seen so far since you've been back on campus and just from farther away looking at this club, from whether it's been watching games or seeing the things that the team is doing on social media? What has it been like to see all the crazy changes since you've been gone?
Yeah, well, obviously the team is in very good hands and playing a lot better than we were when I was here and a part of the club. So that's obviously awesome to see. So, Jim and the staff and everybody here has done a fabulous job. And just to see the team playing at such a high level is incredible. But coming down the off-ramp and just seeing the overall stadium, fields, the construction going on, this actual building that we're in, a lot more of it is being used by the club than at any other time that I was here. So everything is just bigger, nicer, and better now.
And that's what we love to hear. And Mark was actually one of the original employees of the Philadelphia Union. Mark, do you want to touch on all the changes that you've seen in your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot since 2009, like Brian mentioned. One major thing that I can think of is like you mentioned, those practice fields used to be parking lots when you got here. Now we're looking at a state-of-the-art facility that we're building, and it's pretty awesome. And then obviously we're filming this on Saturday before Alumni Night, but I know you're going to be over at Union Yards later, our brand new bar that we have outside for tailgating and stuff. So yeah, it's come a long way, and hopefully there's only more to come.
So you joined the club in just its second year. Mm-hmm. What was it like to be a part of something that was so new after being part of more established teams?
Yeah, I mean, the sort of the running joke, at least for some of my old teammates from other teams was, oh, you just traded for Brian Carroll. Good luck. You're going to make the playoffs next year. And we actually did. So that was really fun and a cool experience to just, be a part of maybe a second year expansion team that had a lot of buzz and had a lot of excitement, especially when, you've got 2 big names and 2 big leaders, Danny Califf and Sebastian Letou, that sort of got the program kicked off on the right foot. Was able to come in and just be a stabilizing factor and help the team play maybe a little bit better over the course of an entire season and qualify us for the playoffs. So that was really neat.
What was a day in the life as a Union player like back then?
Well, I can tell you it's not as nice as it is now, or even towards the end of my career, because, we didn't have, breakfast, lunch, and the ability to take, extra snacks and liquids home to make sure that we were properly nutritioned and prepared for whether it's the next practice or the next travel or the next home game. So that was a huge thing. But really, it's just having the facilities now, a place to call home where you can walk directly out of your home locker room directly onto the fields was a huge factor towards the end of my career. And now I can only imagine how much nicer and better it's going to be here now and in the near future.
Chartered flights.
Didn't
have those back when you were playing a ton.
Only occasionally when we had to go play in a Champions League Cup or, lucky enough to be called up to the U.S. national team. That was my only experience with charter flights. Otherwise, but now, guys get those on a regular basis, and it's a huge thing to see.
On a bigger scale, it's no secret that the Philadelphia Union has grown tremendously, but Major League Soccer as a whole has as well. What has it been like for you to see the growth of the league and the growth of soccer and its popularity in the United States?
Well, it certainly has come a long way since it started, and it's come a long way from even the time then I retired to what it is like today. But even if you're just looking at it from the playing side, everyone's bigger, stronger, faster, everyone's technical. It doesn't matter really what position you're playing. You have to have all of those tools now. You can't just be an athlete. You also have to be technically sound. You also have to understand what are the tactics that the coaches are trying to get across, and all of that stuff matters now, and it's just not one component there. But then even if you're looking at sort of the business side, every team is starting a podcast now, or every team is increasing the amount that they're spending on marketing and media, and that's great to see. But then even the opportunity to start a new team, the price tag has gone up, and I think that's a credit to everybody that has played and then gone on and is now working in the front office and coaching and just sort of raising the awareness and the level of the game. It's been fun to be a small part of that, and now it's fun to see it grow to even what it is today.
And then even more recently, last season, Lionel Messi signed with Inter Miami. Did that remind you at all about when David Beckham signed with LA Galaxy in 2007?
It does, and when David Beckham was signed back in 2007, I was a member of a different team in DC United, and one of my teammates told me pretty early on, and he was actually a member of the staff here for a little while, and sort of kickstarted some of what we're seeing to the Union today. But Ernie Stewart basically yelled at a lot of the younger players on the team saying, you can't wear that jersey into this locker room. You're actually competing with those people. You just may not know it. So to see players like David Beckham come and have an impact on our league, both as a player and now as an owner, has been huge. And then to see him take the team that he owns and runs and operates and to bring other high-level names in here, and now to see the success that they're having this year is a credit to the growth of this league and the trajectory that it's on.
So you spoke about a player that you played with that came over to the Union staff for a little bit. Another one is Josh Gross. Mm-hmm. He has been a huge part of the club since coming here, and he was with you at DC United, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think if there's one person that could run faster than me for longer than me, it would be Josh Gross. And
really?
Yes, he was one of my favorite teammates at DC United. Just mild-mannered, wouldn't say a whole lot on the field, but boy, would he get the job done. And he's doing exactly that on the front office side now for the club.
So that makes a ton of sense. So I called Josh on the way here today. I said, give me some dirt on Brian. Like, I've known him through the years, but give me something. He goes, I got nothing. He's squeaky clean. He's got nothing. Everything is clean. But Dan Nolan told us about a little incident that you guys had down in Costa Rica way back when. And there was an infamous double punch.
That's right.
Let me hear a little bit more about that. And are you thankful that social media is not nearly the thing that it is now back then?
You know, it maybe is something that I am not particularly proud of, but I will say that it did get us out of Costa Rica in that preseason trip a little bit sooner. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, perfect.
But, you know, obviously when you're going on preseason trips and you're going to other parts of the world where maybe you're not looked upon as highly, or they have preconceived notions of the level of the team and the level of the players on those teams. And we just, you know, had a third-party scheduled match against a local team that obviously are going to provide their own referees, and literally got 0 calls. And I can remember, I know that we weren't going to get very many calls, but when you're basically injuring half of our team and not getting any calls for you, and then if we, you know, get too close to a defender and they fall over, and, you know, every single time that's happening, I just lost it.
You had enough.
So the referee called a foul on me. Actually, the referee didn't call a foul, and Michael Farfan got just bulldozed, and I thought that his legs were just taken out and that he wouldn't be getting back up, and I just lost it. So grabbed the ball, kicked it into the person that took Michael Farfan out, and then a brawl started. And from there, it ended pretty quickly. And as Jim always likes to say, it was a soccer fight, so nothing really actually happened.
Right.
It was all just a bunch of posturing. So needless to say, the game ended there before the halftime whistle was even blown, and we left the field pretty quickly, and that was the end of our trip.
Just being a captain, sticking up for your teammates, that's all.
That's exactly right. And then sort of getting back to the Dan Nolan dirt, and then Josh not having any, I'll always remember. So, and it was actually the longest goal that I ever had in my career. It was just Josh played an incredible cross in. The other team cleared it out, but they cleared it right to me, not too far away from, you know, the center circle, but on our attacking half. And I just let loose, and luckily it went in, and Josh hurled me over his shoulders and carried me back to half field. And that was one of the fondest memories I have with Josh, outside of, you know, us being roommates at, you know, on road trips at DC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. And is it cool to see him back here at the Union when you come back for events like Alumni Night?
You know, it's great to see everybody, but especially Josh, having, you know, played with him at DC, and then getting traded here, knowing that he was part of the staff. It just made our transition from one team to this Union family all the easier and all the sweeter.
So we were talking about that infamous fight, and Mark mentioned if that was on social media, that would have went viral. There would have been a lot of likes and clicks and views on that. From your perspective, is it kind of a weird reality that these players that are in the same position that you were back then have so many eyes on them now, not just when they're playing a game on the field, when you're watching a broadcast, but anytime they're anywhere?
Yeah, and obviously you just have to, you know, be on your game at all times, and that's just a part of the game these days. But I think it's helped raise awareness around the game. I think it's helped raise players' level, both on and off the field. And who knows, maybe if social media was around when that incident happened in preseason in Costa Rica, I would have a few more followers.
Absolutely. Love to see that fiery side.
Speaking of social media and how things can really take off, the Philadelphia Union recently signed 14-year-old Kevin Sullivan, and his brother Quinn Sullivan is on the first team. You played with your brothers once upon a time. What is it truly like to play alongside your siblings on the pro level?
Well, I mean, there's nothing like it. But what I will say is anytime you have siblings that you're competing with and against at some point in your career, there is a little, you know, family rivalry that likes to take place. So I will be honest, my brothers had the family rivalry over me for a long time because they each won multiple state titles in high school back when, sort of the cream of the crop players were still playing at the high school and for their high school. So they had me for a long time. And then my brother Jeff made it to the Final Four in college, and I never made it to the Final Four in college. So I didn't really win the family bragging rights until turning pro and having won a couple supporter shields and Major League and a couple MLS Cups. So I like to say that I have the last laugh, but they were definitely bigger, stronger, and faster. I just found a way to stick around and, make the best of it.
And then speaking of those high-level competitions, like an MLS Cup final, and then winning a supporter shield, is it surreal to look at how much of an honor and how many eyes are on events like that in the American soccer scape, in the American sports scape right now?
It is. I like to think that when I was playing that the level was getting better and better and the awareness was getting more and more. And that's great. But since I've been retired, the amount that the sport has grown and the level of players and play on the field has grown tremendously. I'm just proud to have been a small part of that. But one of my favorite memories is being able to play here, being able to retire here, and then a couple of years after retirement, being able to go and watch the Union play in an MLS Cup. Obviously was just fun to be a spectator, but what was tremendous was showing up and walking around the stadium at LAFC and having some fans recognize who I was. I mean, that was huge. But then just to see the Union colors flying around the stadium and to see us perform so well on that stage was just a very proud moment for me personally.
That's amazing.
Was kind of hoping you weren't going to bring that up, but still a tough moment as well for the Union.
It is, but I've got no doubt that we will be back and we will be on the right side of things moving forward.
Then at the helm that game, head coach Jim Curtin, he came to the team and he became your coach, and he was only 2 years older than you. And had you played against him when he was a player in Major League Soccer before he became the leader of the team?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember playing against Jim for a while when he was on Chicago Fire, and I was a member of DC, and they would always destroy us. I mean, they just had at the time, a more just well-balanced and well-rounded team, and just had an incredible roster of talent with him just leading the spine with him. And then Jesse Marsh and Chris Armas in front of him, plus Damani Ralph. I mean, some of these guys and their teams on the roster were incredible players, and they were an incredible team. Luckily we were able to catch Chicago when I was a member of Columbus Crew and beat them in the Eastern Conference Final before ultimately winning MLS Cup. But have always been very fond of Jim, both as a player and then obviously when he took over the helm here, and what he's been able to do here as a coach has been tremendous. And I know he's always improving and always looking for that next edge. And I've got no doubt Jim's going to figure that out and take this team to even better places than he already has. Is
it a weird transition though, like going from somebody that used to play against and, like Sage mentioned, only 2 years older than you, and now having him as your head coach for, 4 or 5 years of your career here? Is that like a weird transition at all?
I don't think so, and I think that's partly to name as why the league has continued to improve and get better and better. I mean, as these players are coming in and through Major League Soccer, for them to be able to go and take over front offices and then earn not only front office but assistant coach and head coaching roles, they know what it takes to be successful in this league, and they're able to go and make that transition as easy as possible. So obviously we had a good understanding of and sort of background relationship, having played against each other for a long period of time, but it just didn't matter. I mean, that player coach relationship was always very good, and then to see him start out like he was and what he's been able to achieve as a coach here over the long haul now has been tremendous, and love seeing it.
And then speaking of current team leaders that are really taking the Philadelphia Union to new heights, at the very end of your career, you played with Andre Blake and Alejandro Bedoya, who are now captains themselves. What was your first impression of those two when they were young guys on the team?
You know, I was just happy to see them come into the squad when, I was wearing the armband at the time. It just made my job a lot easier to have players of those caliber come in and help improve our squad tremendously. And they've just taken it to a new level. I mean, those guys are tremendous players, tremendous talents, tremendous leaders, and they're going to take this team to an even better place than I was ever able to. They already have, and they will continue to do so.
How has it been to watch them flourish and become club legends?
It's great to see. I mean, not only are they, gifted athletes, but they're just wonderful people, and they care about the team, the city, and the club, and want to see it improve, and they want to leave it in a better place than they found it. So they're already doing that better than I ever could, and I love seeing it, and I know that they're going to pass the baton whenever it is that it's their time, and leave it in a much better place than they found it.
Do you have any words of advice for players still on the field now looking back?
I would just say, they're already doing a much better job of taking care of themselves and their bodies on and off the field. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to play at this level for as long of a period of time. I would just say make sure you're, nutrition, lifting, watching film, obviously performing their soccer tasks on the field, but the more that they can take care of their body and play for as long as possible, I would just say continue to do that. Even though I was able to sustain a career for a good period of time, over 16 years, I look back and wonder how much more effective could I have been for a longer period of time if I did those things even better than I did.
So now that you're removed from your playing days, Brian Carroll, what are you doing now?
Well, now I'm making sure that my kids are set up for success. We've got 3 beautiful kids, Katie and I. Aiden's 13 now, Grace is 11, and Noah is 7. And funnily enough, none of them play soccer.
Oh, no
I
way.
coached each of them in soccer for a few seasons. Aiden lasted the longest, but Noah's the only one that's doing a little bit of rec soccer. But if I ask him what their favorite thing to do is, none of them will say soccer. So I'm a little bit upset with that, but making sure that taking care of the wife, taking care of the kids, running a financial services practice now with my partner, William Hesmer, and that's going great. But really my job at the end of the day is to be a good dad and a good husband. And if I can do those things all right, everything else will take care of itself.
What was that transition out of your playing days like for you?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think the easier transition may have been staying in the game of soccer, whether that was at the academy level or at the first team level or the college level. I think that would have been an easier transition. But what I always tell myself anyway is I was blessed enough to have a long, successful soccer career that if it didn't work out transitioning to something else, I think I could have found a home back into the game at some point. And, luckily things have worked out. Our transition moving back to the Midwest and Carmel, Indiana, where my wife is from, has been great. It's been fun to see her back in her element and succeeding at the things that she loves to do, which is teach tennis. And knowing that she's happy, that the kids are in a good place, and that if anything wrong ever did happen, I could always find my way back into the game at some point. So the transition has been great. I love doing what I'm doing, and more importantly, I love seeing how successful the club has been since my departure, and how well the wife and the kids are doing in their setup at home.
That being said, do you have any words of wisdom for players that aren't ready to hang up their cleats quite yet, but want to set themselves up for success when that time does come?
Well, much like you guys are doing right now, put yourself out there, whether that's podcasts or social media or internships, or even, looking at coaching licenses or front office roles in the off season, making sure you're trying out a few things. while you're trying to be the best player that you can be on and off the field, so that, inevitably this game on the field is going to end. So you have a semblance and idea of what you would like to pursue after the game, whether that's inside or outside of the game. I would say be the best player you can be. Make sure you're taking care of your body, showing up to practice on time, staying late, and getting all those pieces done and satisfied with. But then trying to figure it out, what else are you interested in? What else can you do with the spare downtime that you have? Because you do have some downtime off the field here to make sure that transition is as seamless as possible.
I think a night like Alumni Night kind of shows that if you pursue what you're interested in, you can really make a career elsewhere with still soccer in mind and using that experience for whatever's next. Is it cool to see all the different paths your former teammates have taken?
It is. I mean, whether you're talking about Zach Pfeffer going back and getting his undergrad and grad degree and then working on Wall Street, that's huge. I think now seeing guys, whether it's in the booth or on the coaching side or with the academy, I think that's tremendous to see. I just love that not only is there a path for players coming up through the academy to the second team and onto the first team, there's also a path for guys that love this city, love this club, and want to transition from player to front office or coach. There's opportunity there, and they've seen guys make that transition now. So I think that's tremendous.
It's interesting because if you look at the guys that are coming back tonight and for this weekend, it literally runs the gamut, right? So Fred still is a part of the academy. Seba and Shannon are all part of our broadcast. Like you mentioned, Zach went back to school, and Michael LaHoo does TV a handful of different places. So it's interesting how some guys take different paths each way along the way.
Yeah, and it's just really fun to see so many of them still involved in the game, or at least being willing to come back and celebrate nights like Alumni Night.
Yep.
And no matter how far you go, you are still a part of the Philadelphia Union. That being said, after this quick break, Mark will have some questions from fans that they submitted on social media. We'll be right back.
Subaru has teamed up with the Philadelphia Union and Greater Philadelphia area Subaru retailers to make a difference in our community and at Subaru Park. Together, we've helped hundreds of pets get adopted at the stadium. At Subaru Park, we've grown and donated thousands of servings of fresh organic produce to area food banks and helped give kids in our community access to the game they love. Together, Subaru and the Philadelphia Union are making a difference. Subaru, more than a car company.
We're back, and it's time for Mark's favorite part of the DOOP, mailbag. We have quite a few questions.
We do. We have a lot. Obviously, fan favorite Brian Carroll, so we do have some good ones here. I left out, I don't know if you saw this online, but Jeff Mitchell, if you remember him, wrote like this crazy letter, very strange. We didn't get to that, and we'll leave that out. So, so some of the questions we have here, the first one is coming in from XFlipper86X, who is on our technical staff.
He's a new physical trainer. His name is Phil Watson. He actually worked with the Columbus Crew as a assistant trainer back in the day.
And I think it was just after you left. So his first question was, how is it working with young MLS players on the financial side?
Well, I wasn't expecting that question, but I'm happy to take it. I think first and foremost, it comes down to education and making sure they learn what it is they may not know. And really more than anything, if they can just get off to a good start and do things the right way early on in life, it's amazing how a little goes a long way the earlier you start. So just trying to build up that financial foundation from an education standpoint and getting them started on the right foot has been rewarding. But more than anything, it's just making sure that they have all of the tools at their disposal so they can make really good decisions and get started on the right foot. And if they can do that with each contract that they have, they're starting to see that if they start early and they hit all of their targets year in and year out, you may be looking at a point down the road after a long, successful career where you might not have to work again.
Yeah. Now, are you working with players kind of all over the country or just kind of local to where you guys are?
all over the country, all over the world, really.
Nice.
And it's crazy what technology can do, and the ability to meet with folks over the screen using things like Zoom has been tremendous on being able to see and help folks no matter where they are in the country or the world.
That's awesome. So then there was a follow-up question, which now makes a lot more sense knowing that he's your business partner.
It does.
But the follow-up was, how many goals did you score on Will Hesmer in your career?
I don't think I've scored a single goal against William officially. I mean,
teammates for a little while, right?
During our days at Wake Forest together, obviously things would have occurred in practice, but I don't really count those. And then I don't think I ever scored against the crew when he was a member of the crew, and then we were teammates there for a little while. We like to always joke that my DC team beat his Kansas City Wizards team in the final his rookie year and my second year. That's really the only thing that I can point to that ever really happened, but never was able to score against him. Now, as teammates against the crew, as teammates on the crew, he did score a goal against TFC.
Wow.
And every time I go and visit with him down in Raleigh, North Carolina, I see that photo of him running back to the midfield line after he scored, and all of us teammates, including me, right by his side, just with an absolute biggest grin I've ever seen anybody have.
Just a shocked look, probably.
Just a shocked look. So I'm happy for him that he got that goal. I don't think he'll ever let that down, and I'll never forget that memory. But obviously, every time I go back to his neck of the woods, I see that photo in his house, and it brings back a lot of good memories.
That's awesome. All right, so you mentioned Josh being a really one of your favorite teammates to play alongside, but Johnny Leonard wants to know, who was your favorite player to play alongside?
Who is my favorite player to play alongside of?
You might insult some people here if you don't say the right person.
Well, obviously it was a joy and a pleasure to play with my brothers professionally. So that will always be number one in my book. But, there's so many good players that I had the pleasure to play with, whether that's, Ben Olsen or Ernie Stewart. So many guys showed me the way. But having been here in Philly for a long period of time, I think it's funny that you guys have labeled me as fan favorite Brian Carroll. I think somebody that has me beat is Sebastian Letou. So always a joy to play with him. And he's had a tremendous career here and a tremendous impact on this club. So he's always a person that I'll have enjoyed playing against. I'll never forget one of my first games as a member of the Union at Seattle Sounders. We were defending a corner kick, and I think I or somebody else cleared that corner kick away straight to Sebastian Letou. He dribbled all the way down the field, laid it directly across to me, and I was able to tap it home for a goal. So what a memory that will always be.
That's awesome.
Speaking of memories, Ashbaugh Jen wants to know, what is your favorite Union memory wearing the captain's armband?
Ooh. There are too many that come to mind to just pick one, and I'm probably going to miss out on a couple big ones. But I'll never forget one of the Open Cup matches here. Just before having to go into overtime, we got a corner kick and was able to not at home just glance it off my head into the upper left-hand corner, so we didn't have to go play OT.
That's awesome.
I think we ended up going to the final that year or getting pretty close, but weren't able to win that title. But I'll always remember not having to go into play in overtime during Open Cup.
We've spoken about a lot of your teammates and current players that you really respect. Who would be, so the question is, who would be in your all-time Philadelphia Union starting 11? But that's a lot. So let's do your Philadelphia Union Mount Rushmore.
Oof. Well,
It's tough. We asked Ale this on the first episode of the podcast. It took him a second, so take your time.
yeah, I think I should be able to get to it pretty quickly, but we've had a lot of good guys come through the program here, as you can see on the board up here. But I mean, I would have to just build it straight from the back, and a lot of the players are on this current roster. So I would start with Andre in goal. I would then go to Jack Elliott in the back. I would go to Alejandro Bedoya in the midfield, and then I would go with Sebastian Letou up top.
There you go. That was easy. Way easier than I thought it was going to be. We talked about it a little bit earlier in terms of how like high school soccer when you were coming up was still like the thing to do as a teenager. Like you didn't have kids playing in the academy, you went to college and everything like that. What are your thoughts? And a question came in from Fuego Car 28. What do you think about a 14-year-old signing for the Philadelphia Union? How different that is from when you were playing?
Well, I think it speaks to the amount that the game has grown and the amount of talent that is in this country and that we're able to produce now. I think for players of that caliber, there is a huge opportunity out there. And now that there is a pathway provided for them through the academy to the second team, to the first team, to the national team, and then potentially beyond. So I think that that's tremendous. But you also have the ability within this Union family and program to go from the academy to the second team, maybe even to college. So there's a lot of different avenues and a lot of different opportunity. Even when you're talking about the school that's attached to the club, there are so many opportunities at this club that I think it's really one of the blueprints for success. And the Union's leading the charge, in my opinion.
And I should have thought about this, but 14-year-olds, that's actually not a new thing to you because you played with a 14-year-old, right? Back in the day with
Yes,
with
I do have
Adu?
experience going back to the DC United days with a little-known number 1 draft pick named Freddie Adu.
That's right.
Does anybody know who the second pick was after Freddie Adu?
You.
No. He is one of the best defenders in Major League Soccer history. He's also my brother-in-law.
Oh, God, I should know this. Is it Jeff Park?
It is Chad Marshall.
Chad Marshall, I knew that.
I didn't.
I did. I remember hearing that.
But yeah, I mean, Freddie came in and made such a huge impact on the game and for our club. And fortunately enough, we were able to win MLS Cup in his first year, my second year. So had a tremendous impact on the game overall, and I think has helped spark a lot of the eventual opportunity that is now exists in front of other tremendous talents coming out of this country.
We touched on this also a lot more, but JOSN22 wants to know, did you give team captain Alejandro Bedoya any advice on taking the captain role?
You know what? I didn't have to because Ali had already had a better U.S. men's national team career than I ever did. Fortunately, I was able to play in some World Cup qualifiers and compete for a spot on a World Cup team. But he had already played internationally. He had already played more for the U.S. team than I ever did. So I didn't really have to do anything but give him the armband.
So here's an interesting one because a couple people in here had asked, like, oh, what type of player was Brian Carroll, all that type of stuff. And the name that came up a couple of times was Leon Flock, like a similar version of what Leon is now. And we got a question from Jonah Clyde Dale. He says, no questions, just here to say that you're an OG, and fans think that you play like Leon Flock, which to me is a massive compliment. He's obviously a big piece of the Union squad now and has been for the last few years. But would you agree, or is there somebody else on the Union that you think kind of fits the way that you used to play?
I love Leon's game. I'm happy to be in the same category as that. I know he'll be a much better player than I ever was over the long haul, so I will take what I can get.
There you go.
The exact wording was, you are Leon Flock before Leon Flock was cool. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I always jokingly refer to it as, I wore the captain's armband and played in the number 6 or the number 8 role for a long time. And what that really means is that when you lose, you get all the blame. And when you win, you get none of the credit.
None of it. That's all to Seba and the goal scorers, right?
That's exactly right.
Brian, that's about all we have for you today. But one last question from me. Do you have a message for all the longtime fans that have been sticking with this team from those original days in Chester?
I would just say you guys are the lifeblood of this club and this city. And if it weren't for you, none of this would be around. So keep supporting us, keep giving us your all, and we'll do our best to return the favor.
And for more Philadelphia Union content like this, subscribe to Philadelphia Union's YouTube channel. For now, we'll see you next time.